Welcome back to the next installment on our series of webcasts competing on analytics here at Data Summit Connect, the second day. It's been a great morning, full of great presentations, very informative, and I'm pleased to open up what will be another very keen and knowledge growing, knowledge increasing type of session, integrated and operational AI, presented by Dhiman Dey. He's delivery head of advanced analytics at Clearpeaks. And what's interesting is Dhiman's going to talk about the aligning AI with the business, getting to know what the business needs, and working with the business. So Dhiman, looking forward to your session. Take it away.
Thank you, Joe. And first of all, thanks to everyone who has been here the whole day. In this time of the world where we are all stuck at home, doing these webinars through the digital channels is the new normals. So without any further ado, let me get into today's session. And let me start sharing a screen. So what we are going to talk about today is operational and integrated AI. So just a quick disclaimer before we get into the thick of things. This is not going to be a technical session. This is going to be a very, very high level, strategic, thought-provoking conversations, mostly for the, let's say, management and above people. But it's also important or good to know knowledge for people from the technical side of the world as well. What we are going to talk about is what does operational and integrated AI mean for organizations? How do you strategize and how do you implement and take your organization to that level of integrated AI? And we are going to talk about, what are the needs? Why do you need operational and integrated AI? And what are the different steps that folks from management should be keen to understand when they're trying to implement AI at an operational scale, right? So moving on. So today's agenda is we'll start with a quick introduction. We'll go through a little bit of the situational awareness of AI, just a quick summary, the need of operational and integrated AI, and then we go into the definition of operational integrated AI. And finally, we'll close it off with the roadmap and strategy that you can take ahead for your organization. Okay, and then finally we'll open it up for the Q&A. So first and foremost, I work with Clearpeaks. Just a brief introduction. So we are a 20-plus-year-old company, mostly consulting services for end-to-end data analytics. We do modern business intelligence, enterprise DI, big data and cloud, and all the way to advanced analytics for AI and machine learning based implementations, and taking it a step further for enhanced and executive experience web and mobile app development for your data. Okay, we have close to 400 clients all over the world. We're a small boutique company. We focus on quality rather than quantity. More than 500 projects worldwide and go across diverse domains and industries. We are a Spanish company headquartered in Barcelona. We do have an office in Croatia, Zagreb, and we operate our Middle East offices from the Abu Dhabi and the Dubai offices in Middle East, in UAE. And the fresh news that we have is by late this year or early next year, that is 2022, we will be setting our first shop in the US. That is set out of Boston. A little bit about me. I've been in this industry of data and decision science for more than 11 years. Worked with multiple MNCs across the globe, across continents for banking, telecom, public sector, education, and retail. My expertise lies in the artificial intelligence and the integrated business process systems with AI and ML. Currently, I am heading the advanced analytics practice for the Clearpeaks globally. Now, moving on, the situational awareness of AI, just to quickly understand the current landscape. Okay, this is a Matt Turk representation of the AI landscape in 2021, the number of services and platforms and tools and technologies that are involved for AI and machine learning in today's world, including proprietary softwares to open source, is really complex landscape. It's, first of all, it's very crowded, it's confusing, and it's costly. Okay, the reason for being crowded, it's pretty simple. You can see it on the screen. The number of options that you have itself is can overwhelm you at any point of time. The confusing part is because these tools and technologies that you have serve different purposes across different aspects of the life cycle of an AI implementation. And costly is to have a to have an end-to-end fulfillment of an AI journey in your organization. If you don't choose it well, if you don't know the turns and corners that you have to cut, the entire engagement can run you for quite some dollars. So overall, this is the challenge that we are looking at today. So that's on the platform and the landscape side of things. The second major challenge that we see is the current skill requirements in the AI field. We all know this. If you have people, if you're coming from an data science team or an AI or a machine learning team, and you have experience with hiring people in this area, you might have already known the challenges that you have in this domain. Okay, the skills go across multiple areas of core mathematics, core statistics, machine learning and deep learning concepts, as well as to operationalize AI to a production based system. You have to have proper software engineering skills end to end. And last but not the least, which is very important, that is business acumen. If you do not understand what you're building and what kind of leverage that it gives for your business, and how does it enhance the business process for which you're implementing AI, the end value of the implementation comes down to zero. So not necessarily all the circles that you see in front of you would be overlapping with each other. Okay, it depending on the different roles that you have in this domain, but at the same time, not necessarily exclusive to each other as well. And the other problem is, like big data, the landscape of big data was also quite similar, a few years back when big data was the buzz, new buzz. The ecosystem was evolving pretty rapidly at that point of time. Everybody used to talk about big data, and everybody was hiring people from Hadoop and HBase and HDFS and different skills all over the place. But end of the day, it was a very dynamic ecosystem that people were trying to tap into. We see the same kind of dynamics at this point of time with AI and machine learning as well. The kinds of branches that you have in this field right now, machine learning, deep learning, then you have reinforcement learning, and then combining with different forms of mathematics from graph theories and cryptography and all those things. The domain is growing in a much more faster pace than anybody could have ever imagined. And at the same time, it's getting quite diverse. Okay, so all in all, the whole point that I'm trying to make here is the other side of the challenge is to have this massive challenge of skills in this area. Okay, so we have seen the landscape, we have seen the challenges that we have around the skills, and next, what we need to look at is the end-to-end AI or machine learning platform. I promise you, this is the only slightly technical slide that you have in front of you for the entire session. After this, we are not going to talk much about any technical details at all. So an end-to-end AI or ML platform, or let's say an architecture, goes through these different silos or verticals. So you have the first silo on the left, that is where you do your data preparation or feature engineering side of things, or EDA. You do your exploratory data analysis. You do your feature engineering, find out which combinations of features are the right set for your models, and that you basically feed into your the second silo or the middle one, that is the model training and validation. This is where the core algorithms come into play. They do different experimentations. You then do different validation exercises using different algorithms from CVs and baggings and ensembles, and then you do some optimization techniques to tune and finalize your model. And then you select the final model, and then you basically push it to your last silo, that is for your publishing, integrating, and monitoring purposes. So publishing can be in different forms and formats, in either reports or dashboards. You have different notebooks or PDF for analyst reports and so on. For integrations, the standard norm right now is REST API-based integrations. And for production deployment, it's mostly done through Dockers or containers all over the place. Standard model performance monitoring is right now coming up in the market. So this is another area that is under this entire platform that should manage. So entire situational awareness that I'm trying to put here in front of you is, there are three aspects of things. One is the the skill part, okay, which we have talked in the previous slide. And then we have this entire landscape of how crowded, confusing, and expensive it is. And then the a standard AI and ML platform, how it looks like end to end. Okay, you'll soon understand why I've given you this quick, kind of a recap of what the situational understanding of AI in the current market is. So moving on to the next section, that is the to understand the need of operational and integrated AI. Okay, before going into the core reasoning behind it, I would like to take a few steps back, go back a little bit in history, and try to bring back the notion of the first industrial revolution that happened around the 1600s to around the 1800s, right? The beauty of that revolution was, it was not that it was innovative. Okay, everybody knew how to make stuff out of iron. Everybody knew how to make the mechanics of making stuff from raw materials. The ingenuity of that period was in the scale of operations, and that's something that I would like to make sure that all of you understand from this conversation. Any cool technology, when it comes up in the market, it has that wow factor for a certain period of time, which we call the hype cycle, right? And after that certain hype cycle is over, it's upon the operational aspect of it, or how soon can you make it in a implement that in a practical sense and scale it out as soon as possible. Otherwise, the potential of the technology is not worthwhile. Okay, and that's what we are going to look at or trying to understand today. Okay, now another aspect of data science projects or AI or machine learning projects, there was an article in 2019 from VentureBeat mentioning that almost 87% of the data science projects never make it to production. Yeah, that's a serious number. Okay, the core reasons from the article, if you go through it, the link is provided below when we share this article, the slides with you. You can have a read. But overall, the top three reasons for the failure of data science projects are, the lack of leadership support. Data is highly scattered. It's quite fragmented. It's not standardized. And the third one is the lack of collaboration. Okay, so I would also like you all to keep these 3 points in mind, okay, for our next conversations. Now, what is operational and integrated AI? Okay, and before we speak about operational and integrated AI, we need to understand what are the different operations that go on under an AI implementation lifecycle. So this is a standard CRISP DM AI implementation cycle on the right. Okay, like you have waterfall, like you have agile methodologies for software engineering process. This is a CRISP-DM implementation methodology for AI solutions or data science projects. So common tasks that generally take place are like data handling, feature engineering, statistical tests, building the model, validating them, tuning them. After you do the deployment, how do you do the deployment, monitoring them, whether they're performing well, whether they're deviating from their accuracy levels, or so on and so forth. Um, so all these are kind of the operational tasks that you need to follow. Okay, and as you see, it's kind of a balance between. If there are a few folks from the operations research background, then the ultimate balance between or the optimization between exploration and exploitation. So the more experiments that you do, the more chances you increase of finding the next big thing. Okay, but at the same time, you cannot just wait for the perfect experiment to crack and then move on. So you need to exploit as much as information from every experiment that you're doing. So the optimization between experimentation and exploitation is the game here that we are trying to look at. Okay, so coming to the core topic of the day of this session. Okay, this is what is operational AI. So if you search for operational AI in Google, there's quite a few different takes out there, and all of them are valid ones. But I have kind of given it my own spin around it. So in my understanding and in my experience, what I would say is operational AI is a synchronized combination of a platform, a process, and a framework which helps organizations to build, govern, and structure its AI implementations while doing it in scale and a secure manner. Okay, so there are three components here. Okay, so you need a platform, okay, which is aligned with the needs of your organization. You need a process that is going to help you to govern the implementations of your AI projects, and you need a framework that gives you structure. Any department who goes for a AI project needs to follow that follow that framework, so that all projects are more or less following a standard structure in our organization. If all of the projects are built upon a single platform, it is easier to manage, it is easier to operate, it is easier to maintain as well. And process is very, very important. Otherwise, nowadays, with all the importance given towards data privacy, biasness that you see in your model, okay, and model fairness, that these are the topics of concern for major corporates. So a certain process that can govern all these areas, through a proven platform and a proven framework, and at the same time doing it in scale and security. Okay, that's what operational AI means. Okay, so nonetheless, which technology or which tool or platform that you choose, okay, there is no right choice here. Okay, sorry, there is no wrong choice here. So you need to understand that what's the best choice for your organization. Okay, every organization has their own values and own strategies to build around. Okay, so you have to be very careful about understanding, okay, this is the platform that suits the most for my organization. Okay, and end of the day, just as you see below, we are talking about operational AI. It's a massive change. Okay, but to be fair, it's not a radical one. We are not disrupting anything here. These are standard practices that are actually being practiced in all your other software delivery centers, or in all your other software implementation projects. You have a standard platform to build upon, you have a standard governance policy, and you have a standard framework through which your projects are being built. It's just that we need to have that same way of breaking down AI projects and fit that into your spectrum. Now, moving to integrated AI. Now, again, my take around integrated AI is a little bit on the humorous side. Okay, and you can see the quotes phenomenon used. Okay, so integrated AI is a phenomenon where business applications and processes have direct integration with AI insights and information at the right point in time for decision making. uh, there will be many people or many organizations or many vendors out there who would say that, with AI you can do this, you can do that. This is the value. This is the value gain and so on and so forth. But end of the day, what AI is helping you to do is taking better decisions. Data-driven decision making is all what AI does for you. Okay. Earlier, we used to take decisions based out of BI KPIs or certain descriptive KPIs from your data. Okay. What we are trying to do here is we are going to take information that is having some form of predictive capacity to it. Okay. And integrated AI is nothing but the information that you need for your decision making. Okay. Or let's say AI in the right form, in the right place, and in the right time. So let's say you have an AI model, okay? An AI model is built in a certain way. The information that it generates, it needs to be converted into the right form so that your business can consume that. So that's the first part. And in the right place, what does that mean? So you need an information, let's say you're a telecom company trying to understand, the churn risk of a particular customer. So churn risk probability of that customer has to be pushed towards, let's say, the call center dashboard where where your call center executive is actually receiving the call. Okay, so it has to be shown. The risk probability of that customer has to be shown on that customer call center dashboard, and in the right time. Let's say it's there, but it also has to be there when you get that inbound call in your call center, right? So that's what integrated AI means. You have that information, but it has to be integrated to the right place, and it has to be available at the right time that you need it. Okay, at the point of decision making. So merging this together. Okay, what is operational and integrated AI together? So you have this pyramid in front of you, which is kind of the breaking down how an organization looks at any kind of implementation. So you have the business at the top; they drive everything. Okay, from there you basically strategize the implementation. From the strategy, you break it down and you design the implementation. And the fourth silo is where IT comes in and basically does the actual coding, builds your software, builds your models, and that's it. And finally, you have the deployment. Okay, and that's how it goes. That's how it breaks down. Okay. Funny thing is, operational AI and integrated AI, they kind of go, they come together from an opposite direction. Operational AI is something that the business need to think about, how they need to operate AI in their business. So it's kind of a top-down approach. Okay. Management and above people needs to understand, okay, these are the business challenges that I have. If I do this, if I solve this challenge, this is the strategy game that I have. And that's how it breaks down. Integrated AI is something from bottom up. You are looking at very smaller segments of the challenge, and you're only focusing on the integration side of things. So you're talking about, let's say, instead of using Python here, it's better to use, let's say, C++ or R. Okay, because based on the application that I'm going to integrate it this with, it's going to give me much better APIs than the other. Okay, and so it goes on. But at the same time, while doing this integration, you still have to have that final goal in your mind that, okay, this is being built for this design or this strategy or this business goal. Okay, so that's how operational and integrated AI comes together. So now that we understand what operational and integrated AI means, okay, what does it mean for to become a successful AI project? Okay, so there are 5 areas. Okay, and we go from, again, in parallel with the pyramid that we have seen earlier. So first and foremost, leadership, vision, and support. Leadership needs to understand that these 3 things has to be in place: the platform, the process, the framework. There's certain capex required for the platform. There's certain capex required for the skill, and the whole concept of AI and ML. There's certain amount of experimentation culture embedded in it. So it's not as agile that it is supposed to be like other software development cycles. So there is a little bit of patience required from that aspect. Okay. Then coming to the next area, that is the proper roadmap and strategy governance. Okay. You need to understand, what are the challenges in your business process that you would like to solve, and to solve those business challenges, what is the roadmap that you need to structure, like, or what should be the strategy that you should kind of prioritizing. Okay, this is the most important challenge that you would like to solve first, and so on and so forth. Okay, once you identify that, okay, you need to break down that information into smaller business problems, but at the same time, entirely focused amount towards your business KPIs. The fourth and fifth ones are mostly from the IT aspect of things. You need to have a solid data engineering team in place or in house. Okay, and this is where most of your OPEX expenses are going to come down if you have this nailed down. Okay, so having a centralized data lake or proper data warehouses for different departments in forms of data marts, all taking data from that central data lake, is something that all organizations should strive for. And finally, the software engineering prowess. Okay, this is important because we are talking about integrations here. So integrations of AI or integrated AI is going to happen in all layers. Okay, either through in forms of dashboards and reports, or in the forms of let's say integrated directly with the applications and so on and so forth. Right. So these are the 5 aspects of areas that you would like to nail down perfectly for a successful AI implementation, or let's say leading your organization towards operational and integrated AI. Finally, the question remains that what should be the roadmap, and how do you strategize? How do you go ahead from here? Okay, so a lot of organizations have actually come to Clearpeaks, and in my experience with having the strategy advisory calls with them, what we have found is the process that we generally take is the following. So first and foremost, what we do is the discovery phase, or kind of an advisory phase we do with our clients. Okay, we try to understand what the challenges that they are facing. Okay, and before going into whether we should jump directly into building the AI models and integrating them with your business softwares or applications in the front end, we first try to understand whether AI is at all applicable in this area or not. Okay, just because something is cool doesn't mean that it's meant to solve all your problems. Okay, so first and foremost, what we try to understand is whether AI is at all required for that, for solving that business challenges. There are many other areas, from standard or let's say well-proven mathematical optimization processes that can take care of lots of different business challenges, or let's say many different heuristic processes that can take care of business challenges by itself. Okay, which often gives you kind of a better results than AI should give in terms of let's say applicability, as well as the cost efficiency for it in the real world. Okay, the next one is once we understand it, let's say out of the 3 problems we have identified that 2 problems is where it can be implemented, we then go ahead and do the gap analysis. So in gap analysis, what we're trying to find out is what you have right now, and where you're trying to go, and what's in the middle. How big of a gap do you have between these two, as is and to be? Okay, in terms of data, in terms of process, in terms of the operational touch points that needs to be integrated with each other. Okay, and on the 4th area, once we have this is where you need to choose the right platform. Okay, choosing the right platform is very, very important. Okay, and that essentially in most projects determine how quickly or what would be the turnaround time for your projects going forward. Okay, so once you choose the right platform, you devise or scope out your MVP, the minimum viable product. Okay, once you have that and you have proven that, okay, with this approach, we have something that is operational, it is integrated with the business challenges that we're trying to solve. And once this end-to-end cycle is proven, then it's time to scale out. You just repeat this exercise for every use case that you have, and you're good to go. Okay, so to summarize, okay, we have seen the landscape, the challenges of skills in the area, the challenging aspects of a day-to-day operational task that the data scientist generally takes care of. And at the same time, we have also tried to understand, what operational AI and integrated AI looks or feels like, separately. And then we have also seen them coming together and what do they mean by themselves. And finally, we have looked into for management folks out here that how do we take this information and how do we break it down? Okay, what should be the steps that you should go through to actually see this entire or the AI projects that you have in your pipeline to see them to a successful journey. Okay, and with that, I would like to end my conversation here today and open the floor for any question and answers.
Thank you, Dhiman. That was a great overview. A really presenting a presentation of a step-by-step process to bring AI into the business, to understand where the business is at and what they need. Great presentation. We invite our audience to ask Dhiman any questions they may have, any guidance they may be seeking. By all means, use the Q&A section on the right hand of your screen. And I'm wondering, Dhiman, is there in your work, are you seeing a difference across different industries? Is one industry, say, a manufacturing company that maybe doesn't have a lot of IT resources, or is fairly basic, versus a more tech-driven company in adopting and accepting AI?
Yes, for sure. There's clear bifurcations of the AI acceptance as a whole, not only about the operational and integrated aspect of it. We clearly see, industries like retail or let's say the banking are more towards accepting AI as an operational process that can be embedded throughout most of the decision making process. But at the same time, there are a couple of areas where things get a little bit tricky. Let's say for core finance. Core finance is there's nothing much that you can do with AI because at the end of the day, you need to match your books. If your buying and selling doesn't match, it kind of gets you in trouble. No amount of AI is going to help you there. So that's one area where there's not much of a question, or let's say applicability of AI comes into question. The other aspect is of high risk. Okay, let's say in cases of, especially in healthcare, okay, we see a lot of adoption of imagery based AI, like having an AI enabled let's say pathological bot that could read your x-rays and MRIs and tell you, okay, or assess or interpret those x-rays for you and say that, okay, does this patient have TB or any lung issues in the lungs or issues in the hearts and so on and so forth. So those kind of areas, although there is a lot of advancements and there are lots of interesting applications out there, from an operational standpoint, these are very well established products. But the challenge remains with these areas is the risk associated with it. What if you have a prediction that goes wrong? Okay, the cost of a wrong prediction in those cases can be really, really high. So what those applications try to do is minimize the operational overhead of interpreting certain reports. Let's say in a peak times, you have thousands of reports to go through. Your AI can at least screen them for you and give you a kind of a summary. And for a human doctor or a pathologist can actually go through those interpretations manually, and that would save time, and that would save productivity hours or operational hours for your business. So there are different areas of implementations or how you want to operationalize AI for you. Either you take it to the 100% or 70%, it's up to you.
Okay. And are you finding in your work that there's a particular person in the organization who tends to take a leadership role in AI, be it the CIO or perhaps someone else, maybe a very motivated developer, who tends to take the lead, maybe informally, even in moving things forward.
Yeah, see, it all starts with any organization with a single person who is quite motivated and uh, build something really innovative and attached with the business needs for it, that actually gets the boat going from there. It takes that one person. It doesn't matter uh, uh, where that hierarchy meets. Okay, until unless you have proper business applicability of your software, softwares are nothing but just a pieces of code. That it doesn't mean anything. And I'm not only talking about AI. It goes across the entire IT industry. We are looking at, until unless you're building something that has proper impact, it's not going to help you much.
Okay, and how about in terms of the trust factor? Are you finding, especially maybe upper level, C-level folks, maybe are a little bit not trusting of the results that AI may be giving them, or linking their business too strongly to AI? And if there is a trust gap, if you will, what are the ways to overcome that?
See, the trust factor in this field is you don't trust something unless you understand it, right? Once you start understanding, and trust and fear goes hand in hand, right? So my point to this would be, for leadership or for management and above, it's very important that they go through some level of exercise by themselves to understand from a 10,000 feet uh, viewpoint, that how AI can help them. They don't need to understand the linear regressions or the statistical concepts behind those, but they need to understand how to interpret them. Okay, how does implementing a solution around a regression problem or a classification problem is going to help me deciding better? Okay, data is so. Like I said a few slides earlier, that earlier we were taking decisions, and when we say we are taking decisions, it's those leadership people or the management folks taking business decisions based on data points. When you decide which smartphone to buy next, you are actually considering different factors in your mind: the screen size, the camera, the memory in your phone, the cost, and this and that, right? So it's human nature that you are going to look at different KPIs, and you're going to treat those KPIs in different aspects while you're making decisions. And if you trust the decisions, you can only trust the decisions when you understand the attributes that are coming in front of you. If you do not know, okay, what does having what's the difference of having of 2 GB RAM and 4 GB RAM in my smartphone? How does that help me? Until and unless you understand that, you're not going to be confident or trust the decision that you're making. And same goes here as well. Until and unless the leadership or the management folks understand that, okay, if what's the actual utility of uh, you know this AI model in my business process, it's not, they're still not going to be able to trust it. So it's not exactly trust, but it is fear. And I would like to end it in a, like, I'd like to close this in a very easy and something that everybody can take away, some food for thought. So AI, most of the places that we're seeing are being used or planned to be implemented as a novelty item. Okay, it has to come out as a utility. Utility always will surpass the novelty factor of a technology or an innovation. Some innovations are, uh, like I said, there's every innovation goes through a hype cycle, and during that hype cycle, some of them, some organizations convert them into utility. Some of them just do it for the novelty factor of it. So you have to ask yourself, especially for the management and above people, that okay, I have this business problem, and can AI solve it? And the model that I'm going to build, is it just a novelty factor to it? Is it just going to solve a novelty factor to it, or it's actually going to give me some utility towards it. If it's a utility, if the answer is utility, that's when you go forward with it.
Wonderful. Great advice, great guidance to go by. Dhiman, will you be over in the networking area for a while, or do you need to run?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, I'll be there. I'll be there for a couple of hours. Yeah.
Okay. And audience, audience to the left of your screen, there's a networking button you can click, and you can meet Dhiman there if you have questions or want to interact more one-on-one with him, and he'll be there for a few moments, as he indicated. And great presentation. It was great having you here with us today. This really helps round out our look at how to move AI and analytics forward in the organization. This is greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Joe, and most of all, thank you everyone for attending today's session. We will see you in the networking area.